Chag Sameach, a happy and sweet Sukkot. This strange year that we're living in, I was just reminded as one of you walked by and was telling the story of, a basement that is no more and all these things that have happened in our homes. And it's funny how the message of a holiday changes from year to year. Sometimes we need on Sukkot to emphasize the fragileness of the sukkah. And it teaches us that we live in our sturdy homes and we're sometimes not subject to, the weather and the precariousness of life. But we are, and we have been. And it's okay that we're outside on a nice, beautiful night where it might be hard to imagine the tenuous nature of a sukkah, and instead just to be able to sit in this calm and beautiful place with no rain. But we will find our new and different ways to appreciate the magnificent things that grow in this earth, and nature when it works with us and when we work with nature. We are going to go right to the lulav and the etrog. On page 98, there are the blessings that you will see as we take these four species, as we take these precious and sacred things that grow, and we shake in all the directions, as God is in all directions and in all places from us. And usually we'd be passing it around so that everybody gets a chance to, but I don't think we're quite at a place to be handing things around. But there are lulavim and etrogim here during the week. If you call, you can reach out to any one of us, and our sukkah is here, and you can come and we can put a lulav and an etrog for you to have that experience if you don't have one at home. But the cantor and I now have the honor of doing it on behalf of all of us. Page 98. Oh, I'm sorry. If you had a book, you'd be turning to page 98.
Page air.
Just imagine a 9 and an 8.
Okay. Okay. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam
Asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat lulav. Got to make sure you do this before the holiday's over and smell this gorgeous etrog. Shehechianu together?
Let's sing Shehechianu. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה
A story for Sukkot, a story for all of our generations. Once long ago, there was a young couple who were truly in love. They decided to be married in the autumn under the canopy of the Sukkah, in the presence of their friends and relatives. And when the time came, they invited the Ushpizim, the guests that we invite into the Sukkah with us, the ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. And with the spirits of all of those present, they said their vows with the full moon peeking through. They were peeking through the schach on the roof of the Sukkah so they could see the stars in the sky. And after the ceremony, the guests came forth to offer gifts and blessings to the couple. And suddenly a stranger appeared. He had a long, full beard, a lined face, rumpled clothes, and everyone was rather puzzled. He must be from another town, they said, probably just passing through. The man spoke to the bride and groom. He said, "Because your love is so true, I have a very special gift for you." And he held out a smooth, beautiful, round gourd that gleamed in the light. "This gourd is magic," he said. "It contains a wish, but only one wish, so you must use it very wisely and carefully. Don't waste it." The guests stared at the strange man as he continued, "The wish must be made in the autumn when the moon is full. Come into the sukkah, speak to the ancestors, and then together agree on your wish before you make it." The strange man handed them the beautiful, glowing gourd, and before they could thank him, he was gone. They hung the gourd in the center of their sukkah, where the moonlight would give it a special glow. It so happened that a greedy man among the guests overheard the story of the magic gourd, and that night he snuck into the sukkah in the wee hours of the morning, stole the gourd, and replaced it with another that looked pretty much identical, but was as empty of wishes as the air. On the way home in his wagon, he was so excited thinking about how the gourd would make him rich that he forgot to look where he was going. And he drove his wagon off the road into the mud, into a hole where its wheels became stuck in the yucky mud, and the more he tried to get out, of course, the deeper it sank. Finally, in desperation, he yelled, "I wish I was out of this mess." And instantly, he was on dry land. The single wish was wasted and gone forever. Meanwhile, the young couple started their life together. When the winter rains came, they brought the gourd into their home to keep it protected throughout the year. And in the autumn, they hung it in the center of their sukkah, thinking, of course, that it still contained the wish. Everything went well for them for a few years, but after a while, their business began to fail, and they had trouble making ends meet. And that year, on the first day of Sukkot, the woman turned to her husband and said, "I think it's time to use our wish. If we could only get on our feet financially, I think everything will fall into place." That evening they went into the sukkah and sat for a while in the stillness. They welcomed the spirits of their ancestors, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel and Leah, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They invited the spirits of their grandparents and all those who had come before them. And when they felt their presence, They spoke to the ancestors silently. When it was time to make their wish, they placed their hands on the gourd. The husband spoke. I've been thinking, maybe if we concentrate on our work and we work together and a little harder, we can make a go of it without wasting this one wish. We might really need it later on. His wife nodded, so that night they ate dinner in the sukkah under the stars without using the wish. And from that moment on, they concentrated on working together and working harder until business did begin to improve. And after a time, they were earning plenty of money to get by. And then a few more years passed, and one day the husband said to the wife, "There's only one thing missing from our life." And she knew just what he meant, a baby. So again they entered the sukkah on the full autumn moon and sat in silence. They invited all the ancestors and waited until the sukkah filled with the holiness of those who had come before them. And when they put their hands on the gourd, ready to make the wish, the wife spoke. I think we should be patient. Perhaps if we pray for a child, we may be blessed with one. Who knows? We might really need this wish another time." And the husband agreed. So they prayed for a child, and they waited patiently, and eventually they were blessed with a baby. And a few years later, another baby arrived, and then another. And the children grew up, and the man and woman grew old. One day the wife returned to her husband and said, "I think it's time to use our wish." He nodded, for he knew that the only thing that she would wish for was to be young again, to live forever. So they went into the sukkah, where the gourd hung in the glow of the moon. They invited the ancestors and sat quietly with them in the soft light. And when they put their hands on the gourd and looked into each other's eyes, they both shook their heads and said, "Not yet." For in the moonlight they realized that their love would last forever, just like the spirits of their ancestors. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll really need this wish. They went back into their house and grew older. Eventually the husband passed away and his wife followed soon thereafter. And the children kept the gourd and they passed it down to their children, who passed it to their children through the generations. Many years later, when their great-great-grandchildren were decorating the sukkah, one of them found the old gourd and called to her brother, "Look at this old gourd. I think there's some kind of story behind it." They passed it back and forth. His sister said, "I remember that Grandma told me it was a wedding present to her grandparents. She said it was magic and that it had a wish." The great-granddaughter shook the gourd and handed it to her brother. "Field's empty now. They must have used it up," they laughed. Then he held the gourd to his ear. He said, "It's strange. You can hear something inside," he said, "kind of like a seashell." And he handed it to his sister. She held it to her ear. It sounded like the wind, or maybe like whispering voices. His eyes widened. Maybe it still has magic. They hung it carefully in the center of the sukkah, and that night when they invited the ushpizim filled with the quiet voices of their ancestors as the gourd shone its light in the reflection of the moon. We're going to rise for the Baruch Hu, which for those of you who are curious is on page 16. join together now for Shema and the V'ahavta.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed Ve'ahavta את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Adonai Elohechem, Amen.
We can be seated. A song now that we sing every time we gather, Michamocha, but when we gather on Sukkot, it sounds a bit more special.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נהדר בקודש, נורא תהילות, אוסף אלי, יאי לה 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 לה, יאי לה 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 לה, יאי לה 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 לה, משה ומרים זה אלינו ואמרו אדוני מלוך לעולם מבואר ונאמר כי יפקד אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גואל ישראל.
And the Amidah for festivals, let's rise together. Eloheinu ve'Elokei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim, ve'Konei Hakol, ve'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, תומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה חיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה בחרתנו מכל העמים, אהבת אותנו ורצית בנו, הרוממתנו מכל הלשונות, וקידשתנו במצוותיך, וקרבתנו מלכנו לעבודתך. בשמך הגדול והקדוש עלינו קראת ותיתן לנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה מועדים לשמחה, חגים וזמנים לששון את יום חג הסוכות הזה, זמן שמחתנו, מקרא קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש ישראל והזמנים. For a few minutes now, we're going to take advantage of the beauty of this place and this time and do our own private prayers and meditations. You can stand, you can be seated, however you're comfortable. And as we move forward, once we're all seated, we'll sing together.
יבוא שלום עלינו יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. סלאם, סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם. סלאם שלום, סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם. סלאם שלום. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם. סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם. סלאם שלום, סלאם עלינו ועל כל העולם. סלאם שלום. עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו, עוד יבוא שלום עלינו ועל כולם.
Take a moment to think of the Ushpizim from our own families who we'd like to be remembering and feel their presence in the Sukkah here, Sukkot at home. To think of those individuals who made it possible for us to be here, to live meaningful lives. As we think of those individuals who we have loved and lost, we're going to rise together to say the words of Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemerabah, ve'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevarach le'alam u'la'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudisha berichu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tush b'chata v'nechemata. De'amiran be'elma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru. Amen. There is, I guess it's kind of a new version to many of us of Adon Olam, but it is a joyous and wonderful version, and we're going to keep doing it till you all know it by heart, and it'll just run through your head, for days on end, as good music does. Adon Olam.
אדון עולם, השם הלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא, בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. אדון עולם, השם הלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא, בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. ואחרי ככלות הכל לבדו ימלוך נורא. והוא היה והוא הווה והוא יהיה בתפארה. אדון עולם השם הלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. והוא אחד ואת שני להמשיל להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, בלא העוז והמשפט.
והוא אלי,
בחי גואלי,
וחי גואלי,
בצאן חבלי בצרה, והוא ניסי ומנוסני, מנת נוסי ביום אקרא, אדון עולם השם מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, בעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא בידו, אפקיד רוחי, בית ישן ויעירה, באמרוכי גביעתי, אדוני לי ואלוהי אדון עולם השם מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, בעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, אדון עולם השם מלך, בטרם כל יציר נברא, בעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא. חג שמח.
חג שמח.